What we know is that the food system as it exists today is the cause of between 25 and 30% of global emissions. For us as the world's biggest food and beverage company, 2/3 of our emissions come from agriculture. So what we want to do is turn agriculture and food and land use to being not a cause of the crisis, but a source of the solution. And so for that, we're going to need to go beyond sustainability. We need to go beyond and go further, because it's one thing, sustainability is a high ambition in and of itself. But with where we are now, at the tipping points that we are now, we need to go further than that. We need to go into regeneration. We need to restore, we need to protect, we need to renew, we need to put life at the center of everything. So for us, what that means is a major investment. It all begins with regenerative agriculture. So significant investments are going on at the moment on regenerative agriculture to spark a transition that puts things like biodiversity and soil health and water management right at the heart of everything. But for that to happen, we need to have farmers on board with us. So we can't just say to farmers, change the way you do your farming. We have to work with them. And so from an investment point of view, that takes money. And that's why we're investing 1.2 billion Swiss francs simply between here and 2025 to get this process started, to support farmers in making the transition. Nestlé is a big company, but when it comes down to it, the systems that we're dealing with as a whole are way bigger than we are. So this needs a number of things to take shape. Firstly, businesses do need to collaborate. We don't know all the answers, far from it. We're here actually at COP26 as much as anything to learn what others are doing so we can be inspired on our journey. But we're also here as members of various coalitions, whether it's the International Chamber of Commerce, whether it's WBCSD, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. You know, there's so many platforms that are created to help move this journey forward. In agriculture, things like Regen 10 has been launched, which is a major initiative on regenerative agriculture. So us being part of those coalitions is really important. Now, here at COP26, of course, it's really about the nation states and their negotiations. And one of the critical things this week is what we call Article 6. Article 6 is the rules of the game. The rules of the game that came out of all the commitments from Paris and the commitments we heard about last week, which were fantastic, by the way. So what we need is the rules of the game that are set by governments and policymakers to fit into all of the activities that business and industry is already leading on. And when you get that intersection, then we can all move forward at pace. But it does need for the rules of the game to be set and the coalitions to work together to drive progress. I'm so glad you asked me about Nespresso, because as you say, it's one of the iconic brands, and coffee is an incredibly important commodity for Nestlé. Coffee farmers have had a tough time, no question about it, but Nespresso has been leading the way, working directly with coffee farmers in many regions around the world. And what we also know about coffee farms is that because it's been so challenging for so many of them, many of the farms, and indeed many of the regions, have suffered so much that we've lost some of what we might call the original coffee growing communities. And what we've worked on with Nespresso is to help those coffee communities to get going again. It's what we call the Reviving Origins program. It breathes new life by investing in those regions and giving them contracts that ensure that they know they're going to be able to sell their coffee. So that really helps from a social side, because the people know, the farmers know, that they've got a long-term partner in place. And that's on the socio-economic side that Nespresso is driving change. When it comes to other areas, like for example biodiversity or agroforestry, Nespresso has been on a real journey on helping with tree planting. So we've planted 5.4 million trees in Nespresso farms just in the last few years, so that's made a huge difference. Then there's other things like biodiversity and ensuring that soil health, as I mentioned earlier on, is helping to really ensure that those coffee plants are producing well, and improving quality and improving yield. But you know, actually in any community, it simply can't exist on one commodity. It needs a diversification, both of income, but also of course of foods as well. And that's why we support farmers, for example, on things like alternative incomes or alternative nutrition. So beekeeping, I mean, it's a fantastic thing. So in coffee farms, both as a source of nutrition, but actually as a source of income as well. All of these things put together, whether it's on the environment side, it's on the economic side, on the social side, that's what helps when you're trying to revive an industry or revive a community. And Nespresso is proudly leading the way on that.